I wonder if you'd recall some of the early days of your career and some of the clubs that you played.
Well, I had a great career in the early days. I worked some smart clubs. I worked places where moths passed away on the bulb. I had a great deal of fun at the Slate Brothers. It was a beautiful club. They put wheels on it, and it became a Pullman car for Custer when he attacked the Indians at Fort Manuska, wherever that is. But Slate Brothers was great. Henry, Sid, and Jack, wonderful brothers. The three of them put together have trouble figuring out how to open up a cashew nut. But they're marvelous guys, great rocket scientists. Henry studied America and found out he lived in it and gave it up. Sid and Jack are now wonderful tap dancers for Reggae's tap dancing school in Manhasset Beach, Long Island. But the Slate Brothers was great, and I had a great dressing room. I dressed in the alley, and we took a shower. Two Mexican kids came with buckets of water and spilled it on me, yelling, "Zapata's alive." It was a fantastic arrangement. I worked in a place called the Elegant. It was great. It was Italian, predominantly Italian and Jewish people. Not that that mattered, but they all came at once. And the balcony was all in black, and downstairs was all little Chinese skullcaps. And it looked like a bunch of Maya Indians on their way to Rome. But it was a fantastic club. When you came out and said good evening, the balcony went, "Bunjera badante bajunde." And the lower part of the stage where the Jewish people were, they all went, Yuma. So between and Bajabande Badundi, I didn't even do a show. I just came out there and had them stamp my stomach, and I was shipped to the Ellis Island to get a checkup. But it was a nice club. Joe Scandori was the owner. He, at that time, wore alligator shoes, a tie with a horse on it, and smart, wonderful shirt with a lot of stripes. And on the left side of his neck, he had a little boil from too much macaroni. But and he wore a hat over the ears, and they used to listen to Al Capone carols. And it was a beautiful separate club. It was called the Eleganti. It was actually the Elegant, but the people in the neighborhood called it the Eleganti. He said, "Want to go to the Eleganti?" And they all talked like that, and they said, "You dasn't go there unless you pay for the cover charge." And the maitre d' used to say, "You want to sit ringside or you want to sit in the back and look at the broads?" And it was a beautiful spot. And the floor show was great. They had a band. The MC used to come out and say, "And now tonight, folks, we're going to bring to you one of the great harp acts. Here he is, Vito Babanano." Vito. And a guy came out with the pants loose in a crutch and the watch in the vest pocket. And he came out and said, "Anybody want to buy cherry ices?" And he sold cherry ices, did a harmonica solo. They put him in a wagon. They took him away. That was the Elegant. That was a nice club. Worked in the Wayne Room, too, in Washington. Maybe you heard of that. With a bunch of strippers, Sonora and her snake, where the snake came around her neck, down to her ankle, went up the back again, back to her neck, and wound up strangling her ear. And she worked alone with a balloon and two darts. And there was a weirdo on the side of the stage, and if he hit the balloon, you could get to see what was behind the dart.
Weren't you ever afraid that there was a mob influence in the clubs that you worked?
Well, I felt that when they were on the stage hitting me with a club in their hand. I did feel there was a mob influence, you know. Dragging a Jew by a rope, there's no humor there, you know what I mean? Bouncing along the trolley tracks right into the car barn, there's no humor.
The first time you went into Las Vegas as a headliner, what was the reaction to you?
The reaction from most of the audience is, find a tree and let's end it. I came out on the stage and called a couple of high rollers a dummy and a hockey puck, and they had a funny ending to that. They came up on the stage and pulled the arm out of the socket. And now every time I lift my left hand, my left shoulder whistles.
Mr. Rickles, we'd like to tap your fine mind and judgment about the Nielsen ratings in television. As you know, they're a set of 1,100 homes, and their meters on their sets judge what the ratings of shows are, and we just wondered what your thoughts on that subject were.
Well, the Nielsen's, it's a great system, really, because they have somebody in a hot bath sitting there with electrodes on his head telling him, try to move your eyes, you're going to be a judge of what's a funny show. Now, when they break up at the Beverly Hillbillies, which is on 6 years, with a guy in a wagon and a bell tied to the back of his leg, and some old woman in Kansas goes, "Harvey, I love it, I love it," you know we're in trouble. Now, anybody that watches television and laughs is not included in the Nielsen's. They find somebody with a dread disease that has about an hour to go, some old leper in a village, and they let them judge. So whoever Mr. Nielsen is, I want to wish him a little baby pimple on the middle of his lip, and I hope his wife kisses him and he gets sucked under.
Mr. Rickles, there is no question that when you appear on one of the late-night shows, the ratings do go up. That is a proven fact. How do you feel about doing all of these? You're requesting on so many of them. How do you feel about the
Well, my
late-night
back
shows?
hurts from carrying these people. Johnny Carson and Joey Bishop, they keep begging me to be on. Johnny Carson and Joey Bishop are great stars. They've asked me to say this in the dressing room before the shows. And I have. They have both trigger minds, and they should be fired out of this country.
Well, Mr. Rickles, if you've helped so many other people on their panel shows, now your own show, unfortunately, did not receive the same kind of ratings. What would be the reason for that?
Did you ever see a Jewish kid punch you right in the mouth? The reason for that is we were a flop. That was the reason. No, we were on ABC, which is a great network. I understand that they're building a station out in the Nevada test site. And they're not going to have a show, just explosions. Elton Rule, the president of ABC, said to me only the other day, I gave him hot farina, and he went back in his little crib.
Mr. Rickles, if you were to design a kid show for Saturday or Sunday mornings or the early mornings for kid show, what kind of a thing would you have? Could you give us a rundown of the type of kiddie show you'd do?
Well, I think I'd open with throwing up. Just to relax the kids.
Mr. Rickles, Ed Sullivan has probably been on television longer than any other personality. Why do you think this is so?
Well, have you taken a good look at Ed? I mean, how are you going to say to a man like this, you're not on anymore? The body could disintegrate right in front of you. The man's head is wrong, definitely a wrong head. The head was put on an angle, and it ruined him.
Have you and your lovely wife, Barbara, ever been on the Newlywed Show?
Yes, at home. We played this game many, many nights. I have a cousin that works the lights for us. And I have a nephew who likes to hang around that sort of thing, and he's the mic man. So we have our own show, and we get anybody that's in the neighborhood to be the announcer. We have a turnout, quite a big crowd.
You've been a panel member on many of these game shows, the daytime game shows. What are your thoughts on them?
I think hit the buzzer, win a cookie, win a macaroon. Who cares? It's all garbage. It's going over, especially when they send a guy with leukemia to Hawaii for 2 weeks.
What do you think of say a performer like Roy Rogers and his appeal?
Well, I think Roy has a point. I understand. I've been with Roy at his home when you spend a big evening standing out in the front lawn watching Trigger foam. I live in New York. I don't get up in the morning and wonder what Roy and Dale are doing. You know, they're out in Apple Valley going, "Who took my saddle?" And the Sons of the Pioneers are on the fence going, "Somebody put gum on the dungies." You know, so Roy Rogers and Dale Evans are a lot of fun. They're like the Nelson Eddy and Jeanette MacDonald of their day. They're bad. Let's put it that way. No, they're very good friends. I kid about them.
Has anyone ever told you that you and Don Adams sound rather similar?
No one has ever told me. You just did. That's why you're not going to be on this panel anymore. No, Don Adams is a good actor. You know what I mean? He has bad eyes. The jaw locks on him a little bit. You know what I mean? Don Adams should be put in a state probation farm and just suck sap out of rubber trees.
He is one of the best-dressed men in America, though, isn't he?
That's your opinion, and you're annoying me.
I'd like to talk again about Johnny Carson, and Joey Bishop, and Merv Griffin, and the late-night television shows. These people use an awful lot of talent. Do you think they have talent?
Johnny Carson?
Yes.
Oh, Johnny Carson has talent, you know. It just doesn't come out across the screen.
How about Joey Bishop?
Joey Bishop is my very dear friend, and I've been with Joey many, many times. And Joey has one problem. The program is done in English. And Joey has a problem of making it flow. Joey, his tongue gets hung up in his throat sometime. You know, like, hey, It's like a bad bus going on the fritz.
Do you have any thoughts on Bob Hope?
Well, Bob Hope is great if we have a war. He don't make it in peacetime. This guy once had to perform for guys that were not fighting and couldn't make it. So Bob Hope has his own wife wear a helmet. She has to lay in a foxhole in the living room. And that's how his humor comes about, you know. And then he gets a whistle and Kirk Douglas, and they charge the bedroom. And he has to have a full-scale war going. Bob at his home doesn't have this is Harvey Lipman, my friend. This is General Kumquat, General Johnson, General Herman, General Flickman. He has all generals, and they all sit around playing with bayonets. When you cut steak at his house, you have a grenade. You know, that's the way you cut it. Drop the grenade on the steak, it blows up. That's it. But Bob Hope doesn't believe the war is over, doesn't know what's on. He just commutes back and forth. He stayed home one Christmas and didn't know the carols. Sits in a house one day and saw a tree in the living room and thought he was in a forest and left. That's how strange Christmas is to him at home.
Considered the grand old man of comedy, the great humanitarian would be Danny Thomas. I suppose you know this man.
Yes, I was with Danny when they discovered Christmas. We were in Bethlehem together, and he's the one that made up the name Christmas. He looked over a hill and said, I think I'll call this Christmas. And that's how Danny and I became very, very close. We kid him about having Arabic heritage. He is an Arab, and I am of the Jewish faith, and once a year we meet and settle.
Changing the subject, we know you're a big boxing fan. I wonder if you might mention some of your all-time favorite fighters.
Well, Joe Louis is one of my great idols. I've been in Joe's company. I had a talk with him for about an hour once and didn't understand it and had him deported to Borneo, where he's now a guide for a Jewish couple on safari.
Just a slight digression, Mr. Rickles. Next week starts National Rodeo Week in Butte, Montana.
You know, you're so annoying. I don't understand you. I'm sitting here like a moron, like I'm going to discuss rodeos with you. Want to go outside and look at a cowboy sweat band? I mean, what am I going to do with rodeos? We'll put a bell on your nose. I'll ride you around for a half hour. Notice I said on your nose. But, I mean, rodeos never interested me. You know, here he is coming out of shoot number 2, Harvey Dickman. And Harvey Dickman comes out, and first thing you know, he's on top of a bus going to Encino.
Well, rodeo riders may not be big sports figures, but I wonder if you have any thoughts about professional golfers, people who become big show business stars almost, like Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer.
Well, you mentioned 2 guys that I don't know that well. I know Jack Nicklaus. I spent an evening with him in Vegas, and he moved his arm. He's an exciting guy. He moves his arm, and you say, Jack, how's the family? And he says, you want to look at my 9-iron? Billy Casper's a friend of mine. Billy Casper's a lot of fun. You know, he's a Mormon guy, and he's great, you know. And you stand on the golf course, you say, you want to tee off? And he says, thy will take thee if thy want thee to thee. And you keep checking and tell him to get a tongue operation so the mouth works properly.
Do you have any thoughts about Notre Dame football and the great tradition of the Fighting Irish and their coach, Ara Parsegian?
Ara Parsegian, that's a salad. It's a Greek salad. You toss it in the air and it dissolves in front of you. Notre Dame, all Irish kids bombed all the time. Touchdown, rah, rah, rah. You know, they'll tackle anything. They don't know what's going on.
Postseason bowl games.
Yeah, well, the Cleveland Browns, for example, play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who then get eliminated to play the Philadelphia Eagles, who play on a Sunday afternoon, who play the Cowboys, who are 2 points ahead. If they score more than the Giants, that gives them a 3-point with a half a fraction with 6 points, and then the 6 points are taken away if the Colts on a Tuesday play on a Wednesday afternoon. So when the season's over, you say who won, you say a Tuesday afternoon won it.